So, Game of Thrones, Season 6.
My favorite part was the Dorne part.
I'm Luke.
And I'm Jake.
Welcome to Pixel Talk, my sensor. So, we here at Double Experience, we love games, we really do. But we also love other things. We love TV. And well, that's what we're here to talk about. We're here to talk about Season 6 of Game of Thrones.
Game of Thrones, the adaptation of A Song of Ice and Fire by George R. R. Martin. We have a lot to talk about. Lots of characters this season.
Boy, it's been an insane season, guys.
Yeah. I think a good place to start would be our favorite part of the season, our favorite moments.
Yeah.
So, Luke, why don't you go ahead and tell us what yours was?
I have to say my favorite part was just the entire Battle of the Bastards episode. It was just such a satisfying episode.
Oh, it was so good.
Oh, it was so good.
Yeah, it was pretty good.
It was so good.
I liked it a lot.
Just the battle was just amazing. It was so cinematic. There was,
by the way,
you really felt like you were there.
Spoilers. We should just put this out there right now. We're talking all spoilers, season 6.
I haven't really said anything yet, but yes.
Yes, but we're gonna be doing that. Yeah, so you know.
Good point.
Yeah.
Good point. Spoilers. Anyways, as I was saying, it was just a cinematic battle. You really felt like you were there.
Mm-hmm.
And Ramsay finally getting that pummeling he deserved.
Oh, that was good. It felt so good to watch.
I played that back I played it back like 10 times, no joke.
Especially with Sansa, the dogs.
Yeah.
It was good. It was the hounds. Anyway, my favorite part of season 6 was the door. The Hold the Door episode.
Oh,
that whole
my God.
segment with Bran, going into the vision, the Weirwood Tree vision, and he disobeys the Three-Eyed Raven, or Blood Raven in the books he's called, and he just goes and gets touched by a White Walker. And
he got the cold touch.
He got the cold touch, the cold, hasty touch. And then, all hell breaks loose. And they have to get out of there, and Hodor sacrifices himself. And we also figure out the whole reveal with Hodor and why he always says Hodor and how Bran sort of screwed with his brain.
Yeah, I thought that leading up to the episode, immediately when I saw that he wasn't always like that, thoughts began racing like, oh, maybe Bran has something to do with this. But it was just done so well.
It was.
It's tragic. It's just really tragic.
It's tragic. And I didn't really think about Bran being the possible one to cause that. Someone had mentioned that, and I had thought about it. I'm like, alright, it's probably not going to happen. That's so out of left field. And then they go and do it anyway. And that idea came from George R. R. Martin himself.
Yeah, they mentioned in the...
that George told them.
Yeah.
In the after the episode thing is what they...
So I don't know if that's going to play out exactly the same way, but... something to look forward to.
It's going to be fun. I can't wait for this book to come out. There's so many twists I want.
Yeah.
I hope that we get. But we're talking about season 6 right now, and I think it's best to probably start with some characters up at the wall.
I know, right off the bat.
Yeah.
The first big reveal of the season, Jon Snow is resurrected.
He's back, and he is...
to no one's surprise.
So no one's surprised except for maybe his own. I don't think he expected to
look at
back.
that face. Look at that face. That's the face. I'm going to put it on the screen.
Yeah.
That's the face of someone who's surprised. Just shocked to be back to life.
I forgot to do homework. Anyway,
I left the oven on.
Yeah, that face just goes right up there with Tywin's.
You gotta let.
Yeah, we'll show Tywin's face as well.
Straight, we all knew he was coming back,
yeah,
but
we did.
And I know a lot of people felt that it should have been played up bigger.
Mm-hmm.
That there was gonna be fire and fucking light shooting out of his dick as he's being resurrected.
I'm kind of glad
something like that.
I'm kind of glad they went for the more subtle and not as flashy approach, because that's not George R. R. Martin's style. He always talks in the backstory and in the legends about how things are always really grand and really epic and special. And the only incident in the story where I can remember that actually happening is probably when Daenerys steps out of the fire at the end of book 1. Every other part, those stories are made grand and epic by people who tell them. But when they actually happen, they're very grounded into the reality.
I never actually thought about it like
Westeros.
that, but yeah, that's right. That's true.
Mm-hmm. So I think that is why they didn't overplay it, and I like it. I personally do not believe that Melisandre will be the one to bring him back in the books.
You think so?
Yeah, I think it's going to be some other character. We'll talk about that later. But
Okay.
For now, let's talk about Jon. He's back. That's awesome. Other big reveal: Sansa comes to not King's Landing. She comes to the Wall.
She doesn't want to go back to King's Landing.
She doesn't want to go back to King's Landing, and
Just that?
she reunites with Jon.
Like that was.
It was good.
This season is just all about A Time for Wolves, which
Mm-hmm.
is actually was supposed to be the title of the 7th book before it was
Yeah.
changed to A Dream of Spring.
That's true.
But Starks are coming back to their former glory, and it begins with this season.
It does.
So-
I think this season was the antithesis of last season.
Yeah, that's something else I want to talk about.
Yeah.
Like, in contrast, looking back, season 5 was
A Debbie Downer.
It was so bleak.
Yeah.
Especially since at the end of season 4, so many characters get built up
Yeah,
for
like-
greatness. Like Arya, on her way to Bravos, you can see like she's on the boat, ready for adventure.
Yeah.
Sansa, she's built up
She's
to be
built up.
all empowered. She has the black hair and the, that dress, and she has
Yeah.
that look of.
The dark Sansa, and yeah, it was all cool. And she had just like played the game with Lord Royce against for Littlefinger to save him from being executed for killing Lysa, and that was like a big thing. Like Sansa lied to protect Littlefinger, and well, maybe she shouldn't have done that. Littlefinger is also the one protecting her, especially at that time, like before she was back with Jon and everything. Like that was her lifeline, so she worked pretty well to protect it. And then season 5 happened, and all the characters sort of went down a little bit on their
Like they're all
character
built
arcs.
up and they're just torn down.
Yeah, they were torn down, and then
White
season
Walkers, the
6,
Boltons.
Season 6 has been all about them coming back up, and I think that's really cool. And not only that, but we have some other characters up the wall that also kind of torn down at the end of season 5. Not only Sansa, but Davos not finding out about Shireen after Shireen gets burned and Stannis gets killed.
But he does find out.
He does find out in season 6, and Mel kind of, for the entire season pretty much has been like, oh yeah, I did that, let's kind of forget that ever happened. Like, I know I did some pretty messed up stuff, but now we're with Jon, it's all water under the bridge, and Davos is not going to have that.
Yeah, but she argues that they probably wouldn't be there for her.
I don't think they wouldn't have been there. I think that she misread the signs that one time. She was wrong.
She's known to misread signs.
Yeah.
She's not perfect.
She's not
Her
perfect.
visions aren't perfect.
And I think that's the point. Like, she even mentions, I think in the 3rd book, if something is read incorrectly, is it the book's fault or is it the reader? And she says it's probably the reader. And that's basically what Mel did, Melisandre. She misinterpreted the signs, and oh, you're pretty amazed right now.
That made me think.
Yeah, it made you think.
It really made me think.
Yes. So that's the whole thing with that. And then we also got Tormund with Brienne doing a little smoochy.
That face.
Yeah.
Just that.
Yeah. Oh, that was good. Probably, I don't think anything's gonna actually come out of it. Maybe, we'll see. This is Game of Thrones, so they like to pull fan servicey stuff like that every once in a while.
I know, but it's a funny thought.
It's a funny thought. Anyway, we also had Ramsay up in Winterfell until he got shredded to pieces by both Jon and Sansa.
But Roose Bolton.
Roose Bolton, oh yeah, I forgot to mention him. He got also shredded by Ramsay.
The knife of Ramsay.
Yeah.
I really like everyone who was involved in the Red Wedding has died as they killed the Starks.
Yeah, I think that's really interesting. Like, Roose Bolton, one could say that he was either stabbed in the gut like he killed Robb, or in the stomach like Talisa.
But I like to think it's the former.
I like to think it's the
because
former,
he's the
too,
one that actually did that.
that actually did that. And then you had Walder Frey being killed by Arya.
We'll get more into Arya in a bit.
Yeah, we'll get more into Arya, but, it's just a nice parallel, like the way that Catelyn died versus the way that he dies.
It's very
Very
much
poetic.
poetic justice.
Yes, it is. So, actually, let's talk about Arya now.
Let's see, Arya. I feel like Arya's story has kind of been like on the low end.
It was. I feel like of all the Arya all seasons of Game of Thrones, this season of Arya was probably the most filler, in the sense that it didn't really have an effect on the overall plot like Arya's story has in the past. Like in season 2, for instance, even though it doesn't seem like she has a huge impact on the story, she does, because she's at Harrenhal before Robb gets there, and she actually gets to meet up with Tywin Lannister. In the books, it's Roose Bolton, but
it made me think of Emergency Awesome. Kind of brought up this point.
Yeah.
the whole 2 seasons have just been her training to be a badass killer, but that could have been explained in just a montage.
It could have, and it was. We had a montage.
But it could have been cut down less and still gotten to the same point, which I actually do agree with that.
I think it was slightly filler. It's not bad. I think that there were some really interesting characters. I was hoping they were going to go with more twists with the waif. I feel like the waif was a little bit too two-dimensional. Like, I was honestly expecting the waif to have this big reveal with Arya that explained her motivation of wanting to kill Arya. But instead, we just kind of got that.
She just wanted to do it for fun.
Yeah, she wanted to do it.
Or she just straight up didn't like her.
Yeah, and I mean, I get that. There's people I don't like that I can't really explain why, but I don't chase them down city streets.
Now, even though the whole faceless men, their motivations are kind of skewed, kind of inconsistent. Mm-hmm. One part I did like was the character development within that of Arya refining her identity, and especially the parts with the theater.
Yeah.
Where she rediscovers that she is Arya Stark of Winterfell.
Mm-hmm. Lady Crane was a good character.
She was. The Babadook lady.
Yeah, that's the lady from the Babadook, the movie, the horror film. She really nailed it. That was a great casting. She really pulled off that motherly figure that Arya needed at that time. And I think that was the one thing that made Arya's story great this season was the whole theater troupe thing.
And she hasn't had anybody in a while.
Yeah, the last person she had, I guess you could say, was the Hound. But for all she knows, the Hound is dead.
And everyone she has considered her family or her friends, people she could trust, have either died or left.
That's true. That's very true. And then at the very end of it, she kills the waif. She goes back to the Hall of Faces, says, "I'm out." And she goes back to Westeros, and as you mentioned before, kills Walder Frey by baking his sons into pies.
And one thing I really wanted was for him to actually take a bite of that pie and then just go...
Yeah, I mean, he kind of, started retching before he even realized he even took a bite. He just kind of, nibbled it with his fork. But it wasn't anything, I wanted him to, eat that pie. Alright, you should have waited. But that's fine. He died.
Yes.
So, that's all that matters. So that was really cool.
So, let's take away from the ice and let's get to the fire. Let's get to Daenerys and overseas to Essos.
So, I think before we touch on Daenerys, I want to touch that she left Tyrion in charge in Meereen.
He did his best.
He did his best, and I feel like he got a really bad break when everything was going fine until literally 10 minutes before Daenerys
Which
gets there.
I'm pretty sure that was going to happen anyway, but
yeah. On Daenerys' side, she's back with the Dothraki, and she sort of plays up these cows and then kicks down some fire and burns them all. And everyone's there, Jorah's there, Dario's there, and they're like, "Oh!" One character I thought that was really interesting, and I wish they would have brought back, are the two characters, the two women from the Dothraki, the older woman who was the leader of the Dosh Kalin.
Yeah, and the one...
And the one smaller girl that she sort of became friends with. That was really cool. I like Daenerys being friendly and on equal levels with people, because it really humanizes her character, and she does that a lot more in the books, especially with Missandei. It doesn't happen that often in the show, and that was one of the moments where it did happen, and I was so happy. It was cool. It wasn't even that important, but it really made her. It made me accept. Okay, she can go kill all these Khals now because she was brought down to another person's level.
Yeah, they could have explored that more. I feel
they could have,
but I do like that. It goes back to what's her name? The one lady that said... the
leader of the Dosh Kalin?
To go forward, you must go back.
Quaithe.
Quaithe, that's her name.
Yeah, to go forward, you must go back. So she goes from being the ruler in Meereen.
That's the main reason why I feel it's the first time I've been actually interested in Daenerys' story for a while, because, as we all know, she's stayed in place for, 2 seasons.
Yeah, as long as more. She got there at the end of, the beginning of season 4, yeah.
So it's been 2 seasons where she just kind of stayed in place. It's been very stagnant.
It has.
But she realizes she needs to be this... the conqueror in her is always going to be a part of her.
Yeah, and this season I think was more about her accepting it and finding a way to balance that with being a ruler. Whereas before, she was initially all conquer and no ruling, during season 3 when she's taking over Astapor and taking over Yunkai. And then she leaves, all right, I conquered you guys, I'm out.
Now I'm going to rule.
Yeah, But then she decides to rule in Marine, and that doesn't go so great with her, as we all found out at the end of season 5.
She lost that like fire with her, and
yeah,
that even her dragons were getting pissed off at her.
Yeah, actually, there's a really interesting quote from season 5 where Daenerys is like, "I can't control them anymore, the dragons," and Dario's like, "A dragon queen with no dragons is no queen," and that's a really interesting point. And I think, she finds that fire back in season 6. And
she's got the fire of the dragon back within her, and
most importantly,
and she's on her way to Westeros.
But even more importantly, she names Tyrion Hand of the Queen. And
which is a big moment for him.
A big moment for him, because that's what Tyrion's good at. He's good, like he says in season 2, he is good at deceiving people in politics. He's good at manipulating people, dealing with them. He's a businessman, or at least a politician. He can talk people down, and that's his skill. And he's going to get to do that again as Hand of the Queen for Daenerys.
Indeed.
So
Jorah's back, and
Jorah.
He's taking care of his grayscale thing.
Yeah.
We don't know where he is now, but
he's somewhere in Essos.
Do you think that it would have made more sense, like, if the grayscale wasn't a factor? You think it would have made more sense for him to be Hand of the Queen?
Maybe. I think that Jorah is more of a Kingsguard or a Queensguard.
Yeah, but he's been advising her for like 4 or 5 seasons.
That's true, and he's a good advisor. But I always kind of thought, like, before Barristan Selmy was like in the picture and then quickly removed from the picture in season 5, I always thought that Jorah was going to be like the head of the Queensguard, like where Barristan was. I think Barristan was the head of the Kingsguard for both Aerys and Robert. I'm not sure. Don't quote me on that.
Yes, I think you're right.
Yeah, I'm not positive, but he was up there until, of course, he got
he's
stripped.
been there a while.
Yeah, and then that was given to Jaime. So that was really interesting. Of course, he died because, the show didn't care about him, but I did. I still care about Barristan.
He was such a badass.
I know. He's still alive in the books, so we'll still see him. He's not going anywhere. But I want to move on from Essos back to Westeros and talk about Jaime in the Riverlands and meeting up with Brienne and Podrick and, Bronn and Pod having a little talk and crotch grab.
Yeah, overall, I really like the dynamic between Jaime and Brienne.
Yeah.
On how they were on opposite sides, even though neither one of them.
They don't want to fight each other. Like, they want to, be friends. They actually, I feel like if they had total peacetime, I don't know if they would fall in love, but they would become really, really close friends and trust each other.
They understand each other.
They do.
They really do.
They both get each other's flaws and strengths, and they both sort of see the good in the other, and that's sort of what each of them needs. And they kind of get a little refreshing moment to appreciate that about each other before they get separated again, because Brienne, I'm presuming, has to go back to Sansa. So that was interesting. The Riverlands deal was very very mixed. I love some parts of it, and I was not crazy about some other parts. I feel
it didn't really lead anywhere. It just sort of happened.
I feel like it's going to have a bigger role. Well, it already happened in the books, but I feel like it had a bigger role in the books because it happened so soon after the Red Wedding. But that's also because in the books, time, I feel, passes a lot quicker. It's only been 2 years. Game of Thrones began in 298, and now we're in the year 300, almost 301. So it's been about 3 years. When we're with the show, where we're waiting every year for an update, it feels like a lot longer. And I guess maybe it's because I've read the books, I've binged read them, whereas actual readers who've been a fan of the books for a long time have waited years and years in between books. But I don't know.
I feel that.
Yeah.
I feel like it could have led somewhere if in the end they did get the soldiers from Riverrun,
or if they had the Robb Stark reveal, because technically Edmure Tully does know that Robb Stark legitimized Jon Snow in the books. That didn't happen in the show, so that's a pretty big thing.
Although it was it brought up earlier?
It wasn't really brought up. It was in book 3. Robb's like, all right, I want to make Jon my heir if I die.
I feel like they didn't mention that in the show.
They didn't. Of course, Robb died, and Jon has no idea. But a bunch of these lords signed this document saying that Jon would be the heir if Robb should die. And of course, Robb died. So most of the people who signed that document either died at the Red Wedding or are in captivity or hiding. And that included Edmure. And it included Catelyn, and that's why, since Lady Stoneheart is in the books, I think Lady Stoneheart, that's my theory, that she's going to want to beat the one to bring back John, not Melisandre, because that would be such good poetic justice for the one who hated John to bring him back because Robb wanted it.
You know, that would make it come full circle.
Yeah.
That would.
So, anyway, let's move on from the Riverlands.
So, Bran.
Bran.
So, after taking a season off, after miraculously...
Getting a much better haircut.
Yeah. Growing a couple inches. Mm-hmm. You know, a lot to talk about with Bran. He's kind of tripping.
He's tripping. Like, they released this video yesterday with Samuel L. Jackson, you know, giving a beginner's guide about Game of Thrones. And he's just like, Bran tripping. I loved it. It was great. Yeah, of course, the whole hold the door stuff with Hodor was totally stunning. Like, every scene with Bran this season has been on point. I love every bit
It just
of it.
made you want to see more.
Yeah.
Because you're getting these, like, bits and pieces of these visions.
And we're finally seeing flaws with Bran, too, in his character. Like, before, he was on his journey, you know, he was with,
And I was like, I don't want to be here, I don't want to be an old man in a tree, I don't want to talk to this old man.
Yeah, and then we're seeing his carelessness a bit, and we haven't actually seen that much.
Because he's still young. He's still young. And he has, like, he's young and he has this huge responsibility thrust on him that he doesn't fully understand.
Yeah, I also want to go and throw in, you know, a little applause of appreciation for Mira because she deserves it. That actress did such a good job this season,
and she doesn't even have a sleigh anymore. She has to just carry that cripple boy.
Yeah, like, you go, Mira, you go. I love you.
She deserves so much more. But the biggest thing to take away from his visions is we finally saw the Tower of Joy.
We did. So, yeah. We saw Lyanna Stark, we saw kid Ned and young adult Ned. And young adult Ned goes to see Lyanna, and Lyanna's got like, here baby, promise me Ned. And
get us some water.
Get us some water. It was great. We also saw the fight between Arthur Dayne and Ned
That was
Stark.
such an incredible fight.
It was great.
He's got the two swords. He's like swinging around, taking on like 4 dudes.
It was really cool. I loved every bit of it.
Saw Howland Reed too.
Howland Reed, yeah. I'm glad we saw him finally. He's probably never going to show up again.
We don't know that even.
In the show, he's probably never going to show up in the show. I think he's coming back in the books because in the books there's people on their way to go see him.
I feel like it would be a good way to introduce Jon's parentage because R plus L equals J is confirmed as we all know.
Yeah.
And he's the only surviving member of the Tower of Joy.
Yeah. I think in the show it's going to be Bran that says it to him because he's on his way south anyway, and Jon's only at Winterfell. Like, it's kind of easy to get back. But
that also goes into, like, I feel like, wouldn't it be anticlimactic for him to find out for Bran to just be like, oh, hey, that's
I mean, it might be, but I still think it's the way it's going to go down.
I wish he could somehow like, show him the vision.
Yeah,
for him to actually see his mother.
Yeah, and father. We didn't actually see Rhaegar, so that's a big thing. I was kind of hoping we would.
I have a feeling we're going to get more visions.
I think we will. I think we're going to get the scene where Robert actually kills Rhaegar, and, you know, all the rubies are flying out.
What I want to see is Rhaegar and Lyanna actually interacting, because at this point it's still implied to the viewer that, you know, Rhaegar kidnapped and raped Lyanna, which there's a lot of evidence to prove that that's not actually what happened.
That wasn't actually what happened, yeah.
That she went on her own because she and Rhaegar
fell in love. They were in love.
They were in super love.
Yeah, so...
which is better than regular love.
Yeah, because... Oh, it was love because Rhaegar was already married.
Yeah.
he already had Elia of Dorne, Elia Martell. And I think, you know, Rhaegar did love Elia Martell, but it wasn't, like, the same fiery passion.
He was indifferent. He's like... All right.
Yeah, I mean, he treated her well. That was the important part. Like,
he was,
like they had kids. Didn't they? Yeah, they had kids. They were all killed. Yeah, except for
young Griff.
Supposedly, I mean, young Griff. That's a whole other branch of stuff.
Which is probably not going to be in the show, so we won't even talk about that.
We won't talk about young Griff, even though he's really cool.
Speaking of Dorne, let's not much to talk about. Talk about Dorne.
With Ellie, yeah. All right, so there are 2 scenes with Dorne. This whole episode, 3 scenes, or this whole season, 3 scenes actually. There's a scene where, you know, they're giving Doran Martell the walk up the stairs, and then they're like, no, you go back down the stairs, and then they kill him. And that sucked. I like Doran Martell more than the other 4, rather. Then they kill Trystane, just as I said, you know what, I'm really excited to see Trystane in King's Landing and see what he's going to do.
That's kind of a pattern with you.
Yeah, like, oh man, I can't wait to see what happens. He's dead. So, yeah, they stabbed him through the face. That sucked. I was disappointed because I actually thought Trystane was a really cool character too.
They could have done more with him.
Yeah, but they had to sweep the floor a little bit and they just focused on the biggies.
Yeah, they kind of went to the point with Dorne.
Mm-hmm.
Just, okay,
Yeah.
Kirito, let's focus on this other stuff.
And the other scene is with Olenna Tyrell, and due to the stuff that happens in King's Landing that we'll talk about in a second, first of all, they all are upset over the shenanigans that Cersei pulled. So they're like, you know what? I don't want justice. I want revenge. And
which I would understand.
Yeah, I understand too. And then Varys comes up and he's like, "Oh, fire and blood!" And then they're like, "Oh yeah!" And then they teleport over to
more of that fire and blood, please.
Yeah, pretty much. So that happens.
I'll take a fire with the side of that blood.
A side of that blood. But let's actually talk about King's Landing because that's pretty big, and then we can go back to the Dorne stuff a little bit. So yeah, King's Landing happens. Cersei is like, you know what? I'm kind of tired of these Sparrow guys, and she, uses the wildfire that was left by the Mad King Aerys Targaryen because he planted wildfire everywhere.
Let's back up a bit because we
kind of missed maybe the beginning part. Yeah.
So Sparrows they have this agenda to take. They're let's not fool anyone. They just want the power.
Yeah.
So after many failed attempts, Tommen is like, you know what? Let's join our forces.
Yeah, and
because Tommen's been manipulated,
and I think
he's never made any decisions of his own.
The thing that pushed him over the edge was Marjorie saying, "Yeah, it's a good idea." Yeah, he's pushing him over the edge. All right. Well, anyway, yeah, like that happened, and they were like joining forces, and that really hurt Cersei because she sort of lost her son mentally. And then Tommen is like, "Oh, no trial of combat, because that's for dumb people." And Cersei's like, "Well, crap.
There goes my one good thing that I had in my pocket."
Yeah, and then she has Qyburn looking up wildfire strats, and Qyburn finds the wildfire strats, and then they use them, and they blow up the Sept of Baelor. And it's interesting because in the books it's not going to go down this way because the Sept of Baelor, they found the wildfire under the Sept of Baelor and removed it all. So she'll probably blow up more or less, probably more in other places. But in the show, she pretty much traps the Sparrows in there, all the Tyrells that are currently in King's Landing, which is Lord Mace Tyrell, Marjorie, and Loras. Rest in peace, Marjorie.
That broke your heart.
It broke my heart. I was not ready. Like, I was all for Cersei killing everybody else, but not my Tyrells. I like my Tyrells. Yeah. So yeah, rest in peace, Tyrells. All I have left is Olenna now.
And the hundreds of other lords and ladies that died.
Yeah. So, and not to mention all the common people outside.
The bell.
Yeah.
The dude that got crushed with the bell.
That sucked. But, yeah, alright, we're getting kind of long on time here, so let's speed this up a bit. Basically, Cersei pulls all those shenanigans, and she's queen now. And Jaime gets back from the Riverlands, and he's like, whoa.
What happened to this?
Like, I was gone for 5 minutes.
God, it's going to be interesting to see how he's going to go about it, because that's the whole reason why he killed the Mad King Aerys, because the exact same thing that Cersei did.
It's going to be really poetic if Jaime's the one to kill her, and I think Jaime will be the one.
There's still more wildfire.
Yeah, there's more wildfire
all around the city. He was going to burn them all.
Yeah, they're not ready. And then Daenerys is on her way. That's the last thing. Oh, we also didn't mention the Hound. He's back. Not much to do with that. He joins the Brotherhood without banners, and he's like, you know what? All right, you guys are all right. And
so we can expect to see them.
They're heading north to like Winterfell and the Wall. Like more importantly, the Wall. So I think they're gonna play a part in dealing with the White Walkers a little bit, because that's another Red Priest. Maybe Mel's leaving Jon, so maybe Thoros of Myr is going to be her replacement. That could be really interesting. Yeah. But anyway, the final scene ends with Varys and Tyrion and the Greyjoys. The Greyjoys went and joined Daenerys. We didn't talk about them, but Euron's going to be there too.
So they had a king's mood.
Well, Euron's going to be.
Euron comes back.
Yeah.
They go to Daenerys.
Yara and Theon go over to Daenerys, and they're like, "Hey!" And Daenerys is like, "Oh!" And then. Yeah, like they have their scene and it's really good, and they're all sailing back to Westeros with the Martells and what is remaining of the Tyrell forces. So it's gonna be really interesting next season.
It's gonna be insane.
Yeah, it's gonna be insane. So, I know we went really ahead of time, over time here, but it was important to talk about all this stuff.
Yeah, with that, we're gonna wrap it up here.
Yeah,
it's an extra long video, but there was a lot to talk about.
It was.
We're gonna do more Game of Thrones videos down the line. Maybe predictions. Maybe we'll talk about some
stuff on the books too. We'll do some book talk.
That'll be good.
Especially when the 6th book does eventually come out. I think that wraps it up.
So thanks for watching. We hope you enjoyed this extra long video. Follow us on Twitter. We'll put them down here, and check out our playthrough of Paper Mario. We got that going.
Yeah, Paper Mario is going on right now. It's a lot of fun. It's my first time ever seeing it actually, so it's all blind for me, not for him. I'm excited. I like that game so far.
All right, and with that, we hope to see you in the next Pixel Talk. See you next week.
Yeah.
So Jacob is going to get a new shirt. Let's hope it is a blue one. If it's not a blue one, I'm going to punch him square in the nuts. That's what I'm going to do.